As entrepreneurs, each and every one of us wants to scale up our business. We want to grow. We want to build a business to support the quality of life for ourselves and our stakeholders. That's all in our enlightened self-interest. But one of the big things in every research project we do, we hear over and over again is we want to make an impact. And today I have a remarkable entrepreneur. He is a serial entrepreneur like many of you, but also one of the top global business coaches out there. And he's all about helping entrepreneurs really make a huge impact as they're growing their business. And I want to look at the notes here. I mean, it's amazing. You know, he's a speaker, he's a coach, he's a fellow Huffington Post columnist, he's a best-selling author of the Conscious Millionaire, Growing Your Business by Making a Difference. He hosts a whole bunch of podcasts, but this guy it makes me look like I'm a slacker. Conscious Millionaire podcast, and he's a founder of ConsciousMillionaire.com. Global coaching program, Wealth Products Solutions. He holds an MBA, a JD, a master's in psychology, and he's built and sold. He's gone full cycle as an entrepreneur, and he's here to help us really scale up our business so that we can make a huge difference. So stay tuned for JV Crum III. I'm John Bowen. You are at AES Nation, and it's all about that accelerating your entrepreneurial success. You don't want to miss any of this.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
JV, I am so excited to have you here today. I mean, this is, we've gotten to know each other. We spent some quality time. I had a little bit of technology challenges, so we've spent even more time together, and you are doing some amazing things.
Well, John, first, I want to give a shout out to you who are listening today. Thank you for tuning in. AES Nation. John and I are going to have some great chats. And, John, I'm excited. I actually want to start with, because we have had technology challenges, and I interviewed you for my show. We had technology challenges that were unusual. So my motto is trust perfect timing, and I think everything happens at the right moment. So here we are, and I think everybody, you're listening, you're going to get the information you're supposed to have.
Well, and I know they are going to get that. And one of the things that I really enjoy, spending quality time, and we get to do it here together on a podcast, but face-to-face, working with fellow entrepreneurs like yourself who have really gone full cycle on a number of businesses, but also have decided that they're going to make a bigger impact by helping fellow entrepreneurs really make a difference out there, to scale up their business and do it in a way that creates tremendous value for their clients, for the world. And so one of the things that I want to do, I want to go into the life lessons, because you've had so many of these. And but before we do that, I want to go into the backstory, because we don't usually start out as a best-selling author, global coach, and everything at 5. How'd you get there?
Well, I grew up out in the country in Florida, in the middle of the state, and we're on a 4 by 5 mile lake. So I was a little country boy running around and bare feet. And at 4, I said, mommy, daddy, I want a pup tent. And so I got a pup tent for my birthday. And we had a tangerine tree. Now, I didn't have any siblings, but my grandmother lived with us. So I'm sitting there at 4 years of age. We don't have any money. I mean, oftentimes we're not sure where food's coming from. And I said, well, how can I make some money? And I went, oh, the high school kids have jobs. I ought to sell them something. So I got my grandmother and we saved up egg cartons. That's all the containers we had. And one day my grandmother and I squeezed tangerine juice into these 12 little compartments of the egg cartons. And I said, well, Lucy's charging a nickel. I'm going to charge a dime. And I set up my pup tent where the kids got off the bus from the high school. And I sold them my tangerine juice for a dime, which looking back, I'm sure they threw away. But that was kind of the beginning of me sitting around thinking about, well, how can I do something that I'm going to make some money from? And at first I identified an audience, and I found that I had something I could sell them. Now, when I look back, I go, that was pretty good for 4, actually, because I had no idea what I was doing. I just decided I was going to set up my pup tent and sell something.
Well, and it's amazing when you start out like that, and I can still remember. I think it was a later entrepreneur than you. I might have been 5 or 6 when I had my lemonade stand here, but it's that going out, making something, delivering value to your customers, clients, and so on. Having that market feedback, having people that want to help you, your family, and so on, friends. One of the things that once you get that taste, so often so many people that have told me that they had that lemonade. I don't know anybody else that had a tangerine stand, but when you take that and continue the journey, because you really have done some amazing things, JV.
Well, when I was 5, I had been trained because I grew up in this really disciplined home where, you did what you were told. I didn't even know you couldn't take out the garbage. I just knew I had to. But I knew I could wait about an hour before I got really in trouble because it hadn't gone out. So I knew how long I could wait. So at any rate, I'd been trained not to go to the grocery store with my mom and ask for a candy bar because we didn't have the money. And so I was literally sitting around contemplating that one day. And I said, well, what is the solution to this problem? Because I'm not going to live like this. And all of a sudden, I got this huge vision, and I said, oh, and it was like it came over me, it transformed me in a way that was almost unspeakable, and that every part of my body changed, my cells changed, I literally changed who I was, and I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a millionaire. And I ran in the house to tell my parents I'd found the solution to life, right, which was not so exciting to them, and I said, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be a millionaire. And the first thing, my mom shook her finger at me and said, don't tell anybody. Now, when I went to write my book, my editor says, you got to tell the story and you got to understand why she said that. And I realized we lived across the street from the little church. And my parents, like a lot of people, had belief systems. Now, they were very intelligent people. They were very giving and caring people, but they had a belief system like a lot of people that they didn't want their son to grow up to be a gangster, to be a criminal, to be a bad guy. And in their mind, anybody who made that much money was going to have to do something bad because good people didn't have money like that. Of course, I went around and told everybody because that's what little kids do. But in my mind, I had transformed, and I never once questioned that was my future. And literally on a daily basis, I'd be thinking about how am I going to become a millionaire when I grow up? When I come up, I'm going to be a millionaire. So it was like my private reprogramming dialogue that I was doing with myself from age 5. And I think that made, literally the kind of transformational difference that I work at making with other people, I made on myself, not even realizing what I was doing, but it primed me that was my destiny.
Well, and tell me how you then made it real, because this affirmation. It is so important. So much of life is mindset, and once we make it, I always like Henry Ford saying, you're right whether you what is it? You can. Or I forgot
you can or you can't, whether you believe it.
Yeah. And you're whatever you believe is going to happen. And I think so much in today's world of abundance and all the tools, the technology, everything that we have, we're so capable of so much. But how did you have your first big success then?
Yeah, well, let me kind of give you the prelude because it kind of leads into it. So I was doing we're skipping a whole lot. I was doing a master's in clinical psych in LA. I was 20, 21, 22 years old. I was literally driving this yellow Datsun B210 stick shift, actually 40 miles to a gallon. It's kind of amazing back in the 70s, only because it was the cheapest vehicle in the world by $100. And that's why I bought it, because it was the cheapest. And I would go take my days off and I would go riding in Beverly Hills. And I'd look at the mansions and I go, I know I'm supposed to I belong in one of these. This is where I belong. And then one day I came up to a 4-way stop sign. It's like it's filmed from a movie, right? Because there I am in my yellow Datsun B210 and bang, 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 3 Rolls Royces. And I'm saying to myself, first, I belong in one of those. I'm in the wrong vehicle. And then second, I wanted to crawl under the seat because I was embarrassed that I hadn't gotten there yet. So that kind of set the stage. And then about 6 months later, I'm finishing up my thesis. I go home to see my parents. Now, my dad had always been an entrepreneur, but he'd never been able to make money out of it. He'd always he'd go forward and then he would come back and it just never kind of added up. And so his company was basically in bankruptcy and he had a trucking line, which had no interest in me whatsoever. I had decided at that point I was going to go to law school, but I loved my dad. We talked for a month And I finally said, okay, I'll come work with you for 6 months, but that's it. And then I'm going to law school. Well, it turned out I took over management of the company day one because my dad just said, here, I'm going to let you take the reins. And I had never had a business course. I'd never even read a business book or business article. And the reason was I grew up, here I was entrepreneurial. I was always starting little businesses, lawn mowing businesses, all that kind of stuff. But I never identified it as that because I identified that the way you lose money in life is to go into business and be an entrepreneur, because in the little town I grew up with, everybody had a little business and everybody was broke. So I said, oh, people who own businesses are all the people who are broke. I'm going to med school, or I'm going to law school, or I'm going to do something where you make money. So what was interesting is it was like duck to water because I just immediately knew what to do. And when I look back, what I really did was I just systemized everything. Because I had been that 19-year-old senior in college who had the 4.0. How did I get there? I got there because I systemized how I studied and how I prepared my papers and how I studied. I did the same thing to the business. I just didn't know I was doing it, because it's just how I thought. So within a year, I paid off 9 years of liens, gotten a 6-figure profit, fired everybody within 6 months because they were all stealing or lying. So I had to set up protocols for how we hired people. Ended up growing to 50 people working. I had a policy manual. After 3 months, this is the fun story for all of us as entrepreneurs, because we got to laugh at this one. 3 months in, I'm a numbers kind of guy. Ended up getting a tax law degree, but three months in, I couldn't figure it out. We were pulling like hundreds of loads a week, and we had no money in the bank. And I'm going, why is this? So I spent the whole weekend. I looked at all the numbers, and I remember calling my dad Sunday night and going, Dad, it was kind of like I figured out when I was 5, I'd be a millionaire. That'd solve the problem. I said, Dad, I figured out the problem. We're paying out more money every week than we take in. And you got to laugh at it. But you know what? Until you have the awareness of what you're doing, you can't do anything about it. The next day, I literally raised rates as much as 25% by calling all of our clients. And a month later, I said, well, if this worked on the revenue side, let's look at all of our expenses. And I realized we were paying too much to all of our suppliers. And I said, Dad, we need to start another business that'll be a maintenance business that'll do all the maintenance for all of our company. And we can service the owner operators as well. And within a week, we had leased property, hired 2 mechanics, and I set up a maintenance business, which, then all of our maintenance costs plummeted. So now our revenues are escalating. Our costs are plummeting, and we're getting this big fat margin all of a sudden. And at the end of the first year, we had not only 9 years of liens that had been filed, but we had a 6-figure profit, and we had figured out a program for how I could move forward. And then I built the businesses because I was totally into being an entrepreneur, because I'm going, well, first of all, it's the first time I'd had any real money in my life. And I'm going, well, this is good. I kind of like this. And then at the end of 3 years, I bought that brand new, customized it, 4-story townhouse on the water, got the Mercedes when it was kind of like a Bentley. And then one of the most important things that could have happened did happen. 3 months in, because what had happened is I had really fulfilled my little boy dream. But what was wrong with the little boy dream? It was only about the money and this great lifestyle, but there were no other pieces in it. There's no piece about quality, fulfillment, meaning, purpose, all those things that I now value far more than money. And 3 months into it, I was in my living room looking out at the bay. It was a beautiful day. Palm trees are blowing. There's sailboats. And I remember specifically saying to myself out loud, wow, something is wrong with this picture. And then I said, and I don't even like myself. And then I said, and I'm really lousy at relationships. And those were all true. And I just kind of sat there dumbfounded and going, this is a messed up picture. I got all the things I said I wanted to get, but I don't feel good inside. And I'm so thankful that I had that breath long enough to actually feel that there was something at odds. And that set me off to going to all these spiritual retreats, sweat lodges, Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, all this stuff for years, searching for something more and ultimately concluding that I wasn't doing anything that fulfilled me and that I thought had a purpose to it. Like every day I'd go to work and I'm going, but I don't really think what I'm doing matters. And that was just ripping up my soul inside. And so I ultimately decided, I've got to sell the companies. I've got to go on. I've got to find something different. And the good thing is that when I sold the companies, I knew that the answer I was looking for is this thing called purpose. And that I knew that purpose had actually nothing to do with me in terms of getting. It had to do with giving. It had to do with making a difference somehow. But I had no idea how to do that because I had this literally cornucopia of graduate degrees and skills, but I didn't know how did they come together. And so I decided the first thing I was going to do was to go take this massive journey. And so I had read Jack Kerouac's book, On the Road, in high school and kind of filed it in the back of my mind, and it kind of inspired me. I said, okay, I'm going to go take a massive road trip. So I took a 4-month, 30,000-mile road trip. Now, what's really interesting about this road trip is that it took me a year and a half to sell the companies. If you ever sold companies, you go through multiple negotiations and you finally find the one. So I had this elaborate plan for this road trip. Now, I don't want you to think I, messed up the roadway, killed the environment. But an hour and a half into this trip, I had to make a decision. I was going up 75 out of 75. Was I going to turn right and take I-10, or was I going to keep going up I-75? Which direction was I going to go? Well, my roadmap I spent a year and a half making, said I was supposed to go right. But instead, I said, you know what? I'm just going to follow my bliss. I'm just going to find out what's going to happen every day. I'm going to throw the whole plan away, and I'm going to go left. And I did for 4 months, 30,000 miles. I went up to Canada. I went to every province. I went to every major city. I came down the West Coast. Every day I was learning about how to know what I was feeling inside and let that make the decision about what I did that day, which was I learned that I couldn't even make hotel reservations a week in advance because I was one of these people who wanted everything scheduled, right? So I had to throw out that part of me because I didn't know how to do this other part and start learning to feel, because I realized that was what was so missing, is how to feel who I was, how to feel while I'm here, how to feel what I wanted to do with my life, how I wanted to impact other people. And so from there, I ended up at a Buddhist monastery for 2 months to learn how to meditate up in Cape Breton, went to Esalen on the Big Sur coast, which is a human potential place, and I did work study, and you had to pay to do work study, mind you, and I was working in the gardens where I was literally weeding. Now, my friends who knew me before were getting a little concerned because I was emailing them, and this was no longer fitting their reality too well, because they were sending me back, emails that said, JV, you used to have a gardener. And now you're a gardener and you're paying to be the gardener and you're weeding things and clipping hedges. And I write back, yeah. And at night, it's even better. I go to these in really intense groups, and I'm like dealing with who I am and finding out, what's inside and ripping apart and weeding myself. And out of all of that came a clarity to, if that wasn't enough, let's go to Boulder, shave our head, and let's live in Boulder and meditate for a while. So we did that, all of me. And out of that, I began to get a clarity and start to do 2 to 3 week camping trips where I call it asking the universe. I'd go, okay, I'm here. I got these talents, but what am I supposed to do with my life? What can I do that's going to make the world better and improve other people's lives? So I ended up spending 6 months, a whole winter in Lake Tahoe. I was staying in Reno, like a smart tax attorney, not to be taxed in California, as Reno had no income tax. And I went over to San Francisco for the weekend, and I saw this brochure for the Green Festival, knew nothing about it, picked it up, bring it back, and I had this kind of elaborate place with a fireplace and a jacuzzi tub, and I was in the jacuzzi tub that Sunday night, and I looked down and I saw the word conscious. Now, I have been seeking, what am I here for? What's that purpose? What I'm going to do as an entrepreneur? And right in my forehead literally was the phrase, conscious millionaire, in my spine a tingling, and I said to myself, that's it. That's what I've been looking for. And I just sat in the hot tub for about 40 minutes because I knew consciousmillionaire.com was just waiting for me. And then I got out, and like a good attorney, I took it in every other URL I could think of. And within a month, I'd filed my trademarks. And that's how Conscious Millionaire came to me. Literally, it was an inspiration. And I quickly realized it was about, because I had wanted to teach entrepreneurs, how do you make that first million? but I didn't want it to be what everybody else was teaching. It's really just that box, and it's just the money, and then you're empty, and that's not really what I wanted to teach. But all of a sudden I realized there's another path that I can teach that's about how do you make an impact with your life? How do you find meaning and purpose in how you create your wealth? And that was going to be the right path for me to teach. And what's interesting to me about this, John, is the farther I go down this path and the more people I help, the more I realize this is just practical, good business. Because what are we really saying? Find something that you are totally feel connected to. Take it out to the world in a way that's going to make a massive impact and bring great value. And when you do that, what happens? You scale your business because people want to buy your products and services. They want to be involved with you because you're changing their life in a way they want it. It really just makes good business sense.
It really does. Let me unwrap it just a little bit because this has been so valuable, JV. And one of the things that I look at is we go all the way back, when you were just getting started with your father's business. And these are some of the things that you say in your writing. And I just want to repeat them because you gave the framing, the mindset, having your father, just really an entrepreneur working very hard, but never took the time to think kind of the abundance and the systems. And once you start putting the systems and approaching both, from an operational standpoint, client experience standpoint, you looked at, okay, what can we charge? This is one of the things that I love about financial. I'm a financial guy. You do the numbers, and it is amazing when you do the numbers and you find out, you can't make money doing this. Well, something has to change, and it's going through that. But the real big thing that you brought, not only kind of the mindset, the systems, but the execution, making a difference. And you built your father's business. You were able to really turn around and make it very successful. And I think this is where so many of us as entrepreneurs are, is that we get in this, we put our head down, we're working really hard, and we start having some success. And we understand the systems, and we got a good COO or a team that's doing that. We're executing. And then, we come to this realization, really, what you've done, type JV, is, this whole concept of, we're looking and we're going, there's got to be more. I know I went through it personally too. I ended up selling a few businesses along the way, went full cycle, and was making 7 figures in a corporate setting, mid 7 figures, and it was private jet and all that stuff. And I don't think I've ever been more unhappy in my life. And it's only when we kind of do this self-assessment and start looking at it that we can build. And one of the lines I always like is, we're in business not for more business, we're in business to build the quality of life that we want for all our stakeholders. You want to do it first for yourself, enlighten self-interest, but you also, you've got to do it for your clients. That's how capitalism works. We create tremendous value there. We want to do it for our teammates, our partners, our shareholders, if we have shareholders, JV. And this is something that, this is this big why type. Why are we in business? And as we have more and more success, and so many of our fellow entrepreneurs are having that, it's a great time to be an entrepreneur, that they're struggling with, okay, is this all there is type thing? They're arriving let me go one more step. They're at that corner in Beverly Hills. They're in the Rolls Royce, and they're asking. Right. They're looking over at that young guy. It looks like he's having a heck of a lot more fun.
Yeah, who, by the way, who'd grown his long hair and did that whole routine, which I'm so glad I did. Because that's the other group. But it's all the same question, really. And the question is, how can I do something with my life that has a big impact? So what I did was, I think what I did was pretty typical. That my first goal was, how do I make some money, right? Because I had lived in this situation where we didn't have money, even where the food was coming from was a challenge. But look what happened. I got there. I got to the stage that I set up in my mind. Let's go become a millionaire. And then I quickly asked, well, what's more? And I think the person in the Rolls Royce is in the same place. And then people who don't have any money often look on and go, well, you see, people who have money are unhappy. Well, no, they're only unhappy if they didn't find the fulfillment along the way. And that's why I teach the two together. But the person in the Rolls Royce who's asking that question, the real question they're asking is, why am I here? That's really the question they're asking. What is my purpose on this earth? Because until you come home to yourself, which I think that's what that process is about, you come home to realizing, who am I? Why am I even an entrepreneur? What am I in this business for? And the answer is always in the deeper parts of who you are much more than the money. The money's just a wealth is a result of that. And it's an opportunity for you actually to create even more good in the world, because at some point you have enough Rolls Royces, whatever it is that you wanted. But that's the question you're really asking, and it's not been answered.
Well, let's go into that, JV. What we have is, you think about it, so many of our fellow entrepreneurs who, are part of AES Nation, they've already had some success or may have a lot of success. And they're probably, we all are thinking about what are we going to do when we grow up, and how can we make a bigger impact? I want to come back to that impact. How can we, we're scaling up our businesses, we're growing them. How do we go about making this bigger impact? We're scaling up, so we're going to be more profitable, make an impact, kind of determine that why, so that we're making the difference in the world that we really care about.
Yeah, I think it's reversing the typical way we look at business. So when I think about when I went and got my MBA, what they talked about is you go out in the world, you find a want or need, depending on how you want to frame that, that's not met. You find a unique way to meet that need, and you build your business. That's what I call starting from the outside in. And that's the typical way we build businesses, right? But what I'm talking about is you have your business. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to need to go sell your business. You might want to transform it some, but you got to start from the inside out and ask yourself, there's these 3 questions, and I don't care where you are in your business, I ask people to ask the same 3 questions. The first one is, what are you really deeply passionate about? Now, I did an interview, about a year ago, and 7%, the top 7% of millionaires are all doing this one thing. They only built something that was built on their passion. They're deeply in love with what they're doing. And there are really 3 keys, because I have a lot of people that go, it doesn't matter how much money they go, I'm burnt out. I don't know what my passion is. I love to journal, so I'm going to ask you to journal. And here's the 3 keys. First, there is some activity that you do that you get completely lost in it time-wise. You think 30 minutes passed, but it's actually been 4 hours. And that's cool unless you told your partner you were going to meet him in 30 minutes, in which case you need to pick up your cell phone and set your alarm. But there's an activity you do. Second, when you do that activity, you literally change state. Now, I use the word joy, but it might be excitement, it might be bliss, it might be some positive emotion. And when you change that state that you're in from doing it, because you really become one with that activity, it's not like you're even separate. You're all together. And then people will look at you, and they'll go, you look different. You know what? You are different. Your muscles are different. Your blood is flowing different. Literally, the energy in your body is coursing through you differently. And it's like you see somebody and the energy is pouring off of them and their emotions, and it's positive. That's what I'm talking about. And then the third thing, and here's the joke of it all, is that you've done this to help other people for free, because you meet strangers and you probably help them to do this for free because you love doing it so much. Now, that's the passion part. The purpose part is a lot harder to find, I found, but then I discovered how to find it, and now it's easy to find. So I took 2 or 3 years, and I was going through all this stuff, and I'd read books on purpose. They'd all say things like, when you find your purpose, you're going to know your purpose. And I go, well, that's great. I kind of figured that part out, but how do I find it? Here's what I discovered. I want you to think of purpose as your gold coin in life. And on the front of it is the word purpose. But on the back's the secret for how you discover your purpose. And it's really quite simple. It's a difference that you want to make for someone or something outside of you. That is your purpose. Now, you might have several of those. That's why I like to journal about things. But there's going to be something that you go, I am really passionate about making this difference. And I'd love to find out ways that I could do it. And now that group of people are going to be your best strategic partners, because you're going to both be working with the same kind of people. But here's the part that's going to set you apart and really give you that strategic direction that you want. And that is your natural strengths. And everybody has at least one, two, or three natural strengths. These are things you can do with your eyes closed. You do them when you sleep. I literally go to bed and I wake up with ideas for clients. For me, obviously, one of those is systems. I just think in systems. I wouldn't even know how not to think in systems. But you know what? Most people don't. So systems informs everything that I do because I know that that's what I'm really about. And so when you get clarity about that, now you can look at your business and say, oh, given this difference I want to make, which by the way is the solution that you actually want to provide, but now you got to match it with your niche market. And as I say, there's at least 100 niche markets because the difference you want to make is your solution. Now you're just going to work backwards and backward engineer who has a problem that solution will provide the right solution for. Now, there are a couple of things you want to look at because this is where we get all messed up in building businesses that we aren't in love with. First of all, are you going to feel joy or whatever other positive emotion that you want to feel every morning when you wake up to solve those problems for that niche market? And second, you got to look at your financial goals. Will that niche market, just a very small sliver of that niche market, buying what you want to sell at the price point you want to sell it, allow you to get to the financial results that you want? And if not, it's not a good niche market for you. And that's how you need to be looking at your business. And almost nobody does that, even the guy or the woman in their Rolls Royce who's not yet fulfilled inside. And that's why.
No, JV, this is so good. And the reality, I think that, one of the things that's happening is we're having longer, human longevity is increasing dramatically. And as entrepreneurs, we're in a very unique situation that we can live a great life in this time of abundance. And designing our business to fulfill our passion and our purpose so that we can do this for as long as we want to do is just a real opportunity. Now, you go into a lot more detail, and I want to do the next segment is the book of the day. And you have written a bestseller, Conscious Millionaire, Grow Your Business by Making a Difference. I've got the Amazon webpage up. JV, tell us a little bit about what's in the book.
Yeah, well, the book is actually 14 chapters, and I have to say I put my lifeblood into this book in that it's that foundational book that you really need when you're going to write books. It's 320 pages, it's 14 chapters, but it takes you through all the different areas, including leadership, including a very unique approach to your business model that you need to take and grow a business that's going to literally make a big impact and give you the big profits that you want. So I go through habits. There's a whole chapter on consciousness and looking at it from a new perspective and looking at wealth from a new perspective that will actually make you more money and give you more fulfillment while doing more good in the world. I like to bring everything together in what I call the triple win, that you ought to be winning. Others ought to be winning. That's your clients, it's your family, it's your stakeholders, and the world should be better off from what you're doing. And when all three are going on, that's when you're on the right track for yourself.
It really is. And I can just, you're saying this, I'm thinking of situations when I wasn't and how miserable I was. And I can still remember my wife one time yelling at a guy who had bought one of our businesses for many millions of dollars. And we were going in different directions. He was really looking to consolidate and flip. I was looking to build a business that really made a difference. And I'm on the phone yelling and screaming. We're both at each other, and my wife walks by, and then afterwards goes, "Why are you doing that? We don't need the money. You can go build your own business. You didn't have a non-compete or anything like that." And it was like, oh. And it's just, and then I had the time, to reflect as you've done. And I think the book is a great way to help fellow entrepreneurs to do it. Let me go to the next section, which we call resources. And I'm going to pull up your webpage here. And this is the consciousmillionaire.com. All the links, everything we've talked about is at AES Nation. But go ahead and tell me what you have on the website, because you've got all kinds of resources. And I think I've done probably about 250 podcasts. And I think at the time of this recording, you were saying, I don't know, you're approaching 1,000 pretty darn quick here, JV. So you've done that.
Yeah, I write at 1,000. I've done about 850 between my two shows as a host and been on about 150 shows in the last 2.5 years. So I have to say, first of all, I love doing this. So if you go to the website, you get both the Conscious Millionaire podcast, which is for entrepreneurs, and then the Conscious Millionaire Health, which is specifically for entrepreneurs who want to be super healthy and thriving in their life, because that's so critical, and is now turned into the reality show now that I have diabetes and I'm healing it. And so I turned it into a weekly reality show on how I'm healing my diabetes and exactly what I'm doing to get healthy and thriving again. So, but the main focus we do is for the large group. We do group programs in First Million Academy. We have the group coaching, the trainings and the masterminds, and that's for people 6 figures wanting to go to 7. Then my elite coaching is one-on-one with me. I love working with clients who they're in the upper 6 or they've got multiple 7 figures and they really want to massively grow that business and make a big impact and bring the two together. And those are the people I work with in helping them dig down and find out what's the next level for them and how are they going to best get there.
No, that's great, JV. I want to thank you for this, and I want to let me do the last segment, which is key takeaways. And this is, in listening to this, what I would do. I mean, because one of the things JV is all about, and I'm all about, is results. Nothing happens unless you make it happen. So, I want to go back to the early stories. We talked about the power of mindset, this tremendous abundance out there. There has never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. We've got so many tools. We've got, there's a lot of noise out there, but your ability to rise up above the noise and putting the systems in place, the execution, so many of us as entrepreneurs, that's all we do. And we're running really hard and we can build pretty good businesses doing that. But if we take the step back to some of the lessons that JV shared with us on the Conscious Millionaire, with the idea that we really get clear on our passion, our purpose, and then take those and put the systems in place to the right clients, to the right niche, we can build a business that supports the quality of life for all of us. Your clients, your customers, your future clients, your future customers, all these strategic partners are counting on you. Don't let them down. We wish you the best of success in achieving all that's important to you.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com.